Okay. Dr. Weiss, apparently there is a delay in the commencement of the live stream. Are you happy to continue without seeing us, but just hearing us?
I'm absolutely happy to continue without seeing you. I guess it would be, very attractive seeing you, but
far from it, Dr. Weiss.
I can also do with a black wall.
Well, we can see you, and we do see your counsel when he
Excellent.
comes up as well. Okay, all right. So,
excellent,
Mr. Chaskos,
thank you.
Do you know whether whatever the delay is he might see us while he is giving evidence, or is it going to take too long?
I'm told that 5 minutes, I'm told.
Oh, okay. No, that's all right. That's all right. Let's continue. If it's able to come in as we continue, let's do that. And if there is going to be a need to adjourn for whatever that might need to be adjusted, we will do that. So, Dr. Weiss, at least we are told that after 5 minutes or so, you should be able to see us. Okay, all right.
That is excellent. I'm looking forward to that moment.
Dr. Weiss, before...
I see Mr. Chaskos wants to retort.
No, I don't want to retort at all. But maybe if we can get going by, could you briefly describe to the chair who you are and what your role at McKinsey was in relation to projects in South Africa? And I'm thinking here of what you set out in paragraphs 1 and 8 of your statement.
Okay, perfect. I'm very happy to provide this information. So, Chair, my name is Alexander Weiss. I'm a senior partner with McKinsey and Company. I'm working here. This is my 21st year now with McKinsey. From education, I have a combined diploma of civil engineering and business administration. And after that, I first did a PhD in civil engineering, and after that did another PhD in business administration. And then via 2 stations, I actually came to join McKinsey as a consultant first and then developed within this company. I am actually here responsible mainly for serving clients in the infrastructure and electricity space. And in that context, had also the honor to get to know South Africa and also served Eskom in various projects, starting from 2005 until mid-2017, where we unfortunately then had to disrupt or interrupt our support given, the events back then.
Dr. Weiss, if I can just take you out of the train of your statement briefly, and to ask you to answer a question which I also asked Dr. Fine yesterday, just to get out of the way. Did you, in any of your dealings relating to Eskom, have any contact with Salim Essa?
Chair, no, I can confirm that I did not have contact to Mr. Essa, at least not that I'm aware of. I didn't have contact to Mr. Essa.
Thank you, Dr. Weiss. And with that out of the way, can we address the first topic that we would like you to speak to today, which was the process of onboarding of Mr. Anuj Singh when he moved from Transnet to Eskom. And it's a topic that you address at paragraphs 13 to 15 of your statement. Could you tell the chair what happened in that regard?
Yeah, absolutely. And Chair, please allow me to also provide some additional background information and context information there. So,
sorry, Dr. Weiss. Sorry to interrupt, Dr. Weiss. If at any stage you want to add anything beyond that which I am inviting you to say at this point, please feel free. This process to begin with is really getting you to put your statement on record, and I don't want to determine what you do and don't say in that regard. So don't feel constrained by a focus of my questions that you may regard as too narrow.
Thank you, Chairperson. It's an absolute pleasure that you provide me this freedom. So in 2014, we had the situation that Eskom was in a very difficult situation. Yeah, multiple years before, cost escalations were actually way above the inflation rate, which then resulted into electricity tariffs hiking way beyond inflation, giving some strain to the country. And to make things worse, we also had a situation where, especially by the end of 2014, we experienced quite significant load sheddings. Both of these things were obviously challenges to the people of South Africa. Then there was the period that you are referring to, where Mr. Singh and Mr. Molefe actually were announced as the new CFO and respectively CEO of Eskom at this time. And that was unfortunately not an unusual situation. So in the time, I would say in the decade before that I served, Eskom as a consultant, with interruptions, I had experienced quite a number, more than a dozen of new CEOs and CFOs at Eskom. And if you have that frequent leadership changes at such an important and proud organization, you could imagine that everybody who comes in has only a very, very short time for getting up to speed. And please apologize for these words. Yeah, basically, getting into the business there. So since we, as McKinsey, as an institution, have done significant work over this time, we felt it was our duty to, collect the information and the experience that we had and presented that to the incoming leadership team. We also provided that to the predecessors of Mr. Singh and Mr. Molefe. So we had a standing, if you want, and it sounds mad, but we had a standing pack that basically spoke about the current situation and also where are the challenges, what are potential levers prepared, because the previous CEO, Mr. Tsibiso Matona, didn't came in that long before. We updated the collection of information there, and also put an emphasis that the effects that we experienced back then even became more severe. Yeah, so that the power outages came back. That actually in the time frame at around 2008 were experienced before. That was really disturbing and required for some action. And so when it was clear that Mr. Singh and Mr. Molefe moved over and they were first seconded to Eskom, we approached them, asked humbly for the possibility to present this information, and then discuss it with them. This is how we got to know them and also how we provided them with information while they were incoming.
And can I ask, who made the approach to Mr. Singh in particular? Did it come from McKinsey, or did it come from Regiments?
The approach itself, perhaps a little bit more context. We had a client service team, and Mr. David Fine, my colleague, that testified yesterday, among others, were part of this client service team. There was also Mr. Vikasagar, there was Mr. Norbert Dörr, who were part of that client service team. And they had a day-to-day job with them. And, it's typical in that case that this team actually approached Mr. Singh, offered our help to provide a perspective on how we saw the situation and also, how we actually would go about it. And this is, to my knowledge, how this meeting originated.
Sorry to dwell on this point, but you've been part of that client services team as well?
I thought I mentioned him as well. If I didn't, then please take it to me being old. Yeah.
That may well have been my mistake, not yours. If it was, I apologize. Please continue. Is that essentially all you would say by way of introduction to the topic of the role that you played in onboarding Mr. Singh?
That is correct. So that was the first onboarding. Oh, sorry, Chair.
No problem. Then the second topic we asked you to address was the top engineers program, or the turnaround program. Can you tell the Chair, first of all, about the original top engineers program, and then we'll deal separately with the attempts to extend that program in 2015 and 16. So can you speak to the Chair,
Chair,
about
for that opportunity? Yes. Yes. Chair, the top engineers program started indeed at around 2013. The intention of this top engineers program was really empowerment. So we had discussions with the leadership team back then, and we were thinking, how can we support the development of young Black talent, not only in the form of giving away a share of our fees, but beyond and on top of that, doing a contribution of developing engineering talent within Eskom to gain capabilities that we as management consultants had. So there was a selection process, and kind of the leadership team of Eskom back at that time really appreciated this idea. I personally must say I also am fully bought into this idea still. We had then selected these engineers, for the program. It was a very professional selection process. I think in the first year, we advertised across Eskom for talent to apply. We got, if I'm not mistaken, something 400 to 600 applications. Then ran a full-fledged McKinsey interview process on them, and we find really talented people. So we took the first cohort, we call them, into the program, and then they ran alongside us as additional resources at McKinsey projects. This had benefits for everybody. It has had benefits for Eskom because we had to offer only smaller teams because, Eskom then, filled additional resources via these top engineers. It had a super kind of impact, a very positive impact on these top engineers that then later on some stayed at Eskom, some went outside and got really good positions. And it also, had an advantage for McKinsey because, we were not only able to provide factual advice, but via these top engineers that, had natural relationships within Eskom, they also made knowledge database and real talent building beyond this black economic empire. Then at around end of 2014, when we were discussing about the third cohort, the discussion came up and said, yeah, funding for such a program, given the dire financial situation and also the dire performance situation that I just was talking about, didn't allow Eskom to fund for this. So in the discussion with Eskom, we came about to we kind of, find another funding mechanism, and we offered to go for a procurement program to actually realize procurement savings, and then from that share of procurement savings, we would pay the cost for the program. And, in parallel, also had the opportunity to train the third cohort on this program. So that was the origination of the Top Engineers program. And if I look at this from today, I can also see with quite some pride how some of the participants in this Top Engineers program are now, now really made a career inside and outside Eskom.
And Dr. Weiss, can you, I understand that in the course of 2015, there were formal negotiations between Eskom and McKinsey about an appointment for a new top engineers contract between McKinsey and Eskom. Can you tell the chair about those negotiations and when they started and how they progressed?
Chair, you are correct. So where I just stopped, on this offering on the third cohort, that was where it only included procurement. Yeah, it was never signed nor exercised at this point in time, because then there was this leadership turmoil, as we heard also a few days ago, with some executives leaving, a new CEO coming in, a new CFO coming in. So basically that was on hold. Now we onboarded the new CFO and COO with our abilities, the information that we had, that we provided to them. And it became clear that there was a turnaround required in a number of dimensions. And this basically was the result of the onboarding activities that we had with Mr. Singh and Mr. Molefe. So, and that was at around May, June 2015 when that transpired. At the same time, there was still our proposal on the table to do a program that just entailed procurement, that we have done way before this new management team came in. And the request came up, can't we leverage this Top Engineers program, but expand the scope from only procurement to additional work streams such as power generation, such as primary energy, such as claim management, such as financials, and so on and so on. Then a negotiator, a board approval was obtained to start such a negotiation on such a program. And board, to my knowledge, gave approval under the condition that this program doesn't cost Eskom a single penny. Because remember, Eskom was still in this dire financial situation. And I also have to admit, while we were happy to expand scope, we were also frightened to death about parts of the scope. Yeah, and especially the generation part. Remember, kind of the intention was to increase the energy availability factor. That is a measure for, how often can you operate a power station when you actually want to operate it? And this was over the past 5 years on a sliding scope with Eskom. That means that the energy availability factor, basically the availability of the power station fleet, declined the past 5 years, from, I don't know, 75 to 68% or something like that. Due to maintenance challenges and all the context that you're also well aware of. And now we were asked to expand the scope into parts of the program where we knew they had a deteriorating performance. It wasn't so easy to stop this availability thing. So hence we entered this negotiation and had really long negotiation with Eskom. The negotiation lasted from July 2015 to at and around November 2015. And so this was a process, Chair, that I don't know the exact number of days, but plus minus, we have negotiated 30 days, 30 days. And this was not like half an hour here, half an hour there. This was full day negotiation on these matters in order to come to a scope and an approach that could actually deliver against the aspirations that were formulated.
And as I understand, those negotiations commenced around July 2015, is that correct?
They started at July 2015 and ended at around November 2015. That is correct.
But the signed letter of instruction that gave McKinsey comfort in relation to this appointment was only furnished, or at any rate it's dated, 17 December 2015. Is that correct?
That is correct as well.
So in November 2015, even if the negotiations had been completed, you didn't sit with a signed document in your hands confirming that you had the appointment?
That is correct, Chair.
Was there any talk within McKinsey about going to Eskom leadership or to setting up a meeting with Eskom leadership to push through the signed appointment letter that McKinsey was looking for at that stage?
Chair, we are not pushing anybody or trying to put pressure on anybody. The reason for the delay in there was a technical reason. And this technical reason that later on also was cited in media and in various investigations was whether there was a question whether this impact-based contract is actually allowable under the National Treasury guideline. Back then, National Treasury, I don't know whether that's still the case, published instructions on how to contract consultant work. And the measure that was there was an hourly fee. Now, this would have contradicted the board decision that this program is not allowed to cost net something to Eskom, but that it must be paid out of the fees. So hence, there was a discussion and there was also legal engagement in between, both on McKinsey side and on Eskom side, whether it is permissible to have this type of contractual arrangement actually be making work. And then later on, as you follow, and you said that correctly, Mr. Chairperson, yesterday, is that an Eskom was producing that letter saying that it is going after approval from National Treasury, and actually went after approval from National Treasury and then informed us in the first steering committee that they actually had obtained approval from National Treasury.
But when you got your letter of instruction in December 2015, did you understand at that point that the issue of National Treasury approval was still pending, that Eskom was still seeking National Treasury approval, or that they had already been given National Treasury approval?
You are exactly correct, Chairperson. We were under the impression that we would still that they are still underway obtaining National Treasury approval, and if we go to this letter of acceptance, it's somehow here in the annexure. It's annexure AW6 bundle page 898. Let me pull that up. It's also specified. Exactly. It's exactly specified that same way. Yeah, it's a condition of the second paragraph. It's a condition of the acceptance that the Eskom considered opinion of the National Treasury instruction will hold through the life of the contract. In an unlikely eventuality that the said opinion is conclusively altered, the parties hereby agree to review the contract payment basis to reflect the revised opinion. So back then, we knew that they still had to approach, because it was over the years that they still had to approach National Treasury. It was our understanding that in case National Treasury confirmation would not be obtained, then there would be a different form of contract available under which then the works could continue.
And then you started work in January on essentially this basis, that with Treasury approval,
That is correct, Chair. That is correct, sir.
Can you talk briefly about the work that you did and the impact that work had?
I'm sorry, Dr. Weiss and Mr.
Absolutely, Chair, I can.
Sorry, Dr. Weiss. I think the two of you knew what Mr. Chaskelson's question was, but he didn't finish it, and Dr. Weiss responded. You were asking Mr. Chaskelson whether when they started the work at the beginning of the year, they started it on a certain basis, but you didn't finish saying what the basis was.
Well, Dr. Weiss and I did understand each other, even if...
the two of you forgot about me.
Sorry, Joe. I was asking Dr. Weiss if when they started in January, it was still on the basis that Treasury approval was pending and hopefully Treasury approval would be obtained, in which case the risk-based arrangement would be implemented. Okay. But if Treasury approval was not obtained, then the fee structure would have to be revisited within the parameters of what Treasury allowed.
Yes, that's what you were confirming, Dr. Weiss, is that correct?
That was exactly what I was confirming, and this is also how I understand Annexure AW6, the letter of acceptance. That was my full understanding.
Yes, okay, no, that's fine. I've also looked at that letter at page 898, so, okay, you may continue, Mr. Chaskelson.
Exactly.
Dr. Weiss, can you tell the chair a little about the nature of the work that you did and what impacts you were able to achieve within the time that the project ran?
Absolutely. Chair, we ran through this entire period, and it was not only me. I would like to give credit also for the wonderful staff there at Eskom. They really have qualified guys. They're the top engineers, but also the team that was working with me. And it were really many guys. And one thing that I also wanted to say, remember, this was all 100% at risk. So we sent our entire team there, not knowing whether we are getting paid in the end and whether we are able to achieve the impact. We had a number of work streams. One was actually in power generation. We were given as a project basis, basically the Majuba power station, where we very well cooperated with the Majuba power station team back in these days. And the thing was remarkable. I think we got we took the power station at an availability of 63% in the beginning of 2016. When we left, the power station had an availability of 84%. And this is basically, it's a 6-unit power station. It's basically as you're adding an additional unit, right? And you need this increased availability to prevent load shedding. And so I'm also personally very sad that we couldn't continue the work and supported Eskom in significantly increasing the availability factor for the entire fleet thereafter again. The measures are still there, but we had to interrupt there. So that was one thing. Then second work stream was the coal work stream. On the coal work stream, we had historic cost escalations up until 2016 at 16% per year. For that year where we were there and worked with the primary energy team, we managed to get the cost escalation down to 3.5% only. Yeah, from 16% to 3.5% only. And this is, we also on new contracts that we were striking then, that Eskom was striking then, we reduced the new price on from between 5 and 15%. And at the cost plus mines, by the end of the year, we managed to get 1 million additional tons of coal out of there. Then we worked on claims. I think we reduced the claim volume that was at hand back then, by around 15 to 20 billion. And on procurement, we identified during the time that we were there, around 3.3 billion savings, out of which when we left the program, so when our contract was cancelled by mid-year, already 1 billion rand was realized. So besides that, we trained the next cohort of top engineers and provided PMO services. And please ensure me, I know we have been tainted in this process, but the team and the people on the ground did real work. Everybody.
Dr. Weiss, certainly from my side, I wholeheartedly accept that. I haven't seen any evidence to suggest that you didn't do real work on the ground. And those results that you have cited speak for themselves. Can I take you to the next topic, which is the engagements between McKinsey, or that McKinsey had with Regiments and Trillian? It's a topic you address from paragraph 37 of your statement. Can you tell the chair about that?
Absolutely, I can do that. Wait a second, I need to find the statement. Yeah. So let's do that. So as I alluded to before, we had, we were in the process of onboarding Mr. Singh and Mr. Molefe. And in this context, we came with the business levers, but it was also clear that there was a financial restructuring required at Eskom. And from the work that my colleagues, the client service team at Transnet did, so Mr. Vikasagar, Mr. David Fine, Mr. Norbert Dörr, and others, right? I knew that, and they knew that Regiments actually was quite capable in financial modeling. That led during the ramp-up work, so where we ramped up Mr. Singh and Mr. Molefe for this new job, and provided them with the insights that we had collected before. We worked together, all of that pro bono, by the way. We worked together with Regiments. They also worked pro bono, and they did a financial model of the business levers that we identified that had to change. This is how I got involved with Regiments. So they basically effectively came over with the team that was serving Transnet, and now was serving here also Eskom. So in this context, they knew the financial, so they knew the initiatives that we thought were required to turn around Eskom, and they also knew the financial evaluations behind that. And then, from my perspective, and also in the impression that I had from them, from a content perspective, creating on behalf of McKinsey, with legal counsel, with firm risk, with firm communication, and so on. This content, Chair, I have to confirm that we intended Regiments to be our SDNL partner based on their capabilities back in that time. Then, a little bit later, and one more thing, I also at this point in time didn't have any doubts, because they were our long-standing supplier development partner at Transnet, and Mr. David Fine yesterday lined out that they also reviewed. They did a review. He was talking about this. Did basically a quasi due diligence on Regiments. So for me, all of this were facts where I said, I need a supplier development partner on this contract here. They are content-wise capable on the financial side. There are partner colleagues of mine who have worked with them before, had even done a due diligence on that before, and this is, how we consider them also as potential supplier development partner for the Eskom turnaround program or top engineers program. Now,
can I just, sorry, Dr. Weiss, can I interrupt at this point? Am I correct in understanding that the first work that you did with Regiments at Eskom was not on the top engineers or turnaround program? It was actually on the, I think, the corporate plan or business plan, as it's sometimes called. Is that correct?
Chair, you are correct. And that started at around September 2015, where we also intended to have them there as our supplier development partner. I would have gotten there in a second, but it's fine. Because what happened then, we were informed by Regiments in the form of Dr. Wood that he is going to, or he intends to buy out the management consulting activities of Regiments and put them into a separate entity, that he called Trillian. And also that made kind of the way how it was explained to us, and also confirmed by colleagues, is this Regiments had, we also heard from earlier evidence, several activities. There was a financial wing, there was like a real estate wing, and there also was a management consulting wing. And they felt that the management consulting wing did not get appropriate attention, so they wanted to have like one management consulting company. At least this is what was explained to me at that time.
And when did the work on the corporate plan finish?
The work on the corporate plan finished as planned in March. I think there were some March 2016 to be precise, and I think there were some additional work where we then kept a team, I think, for 3-4 weeks on top on this without payment.
And am I correct that the supply development work that was done on that corporate plan was work that was done by regiments, not Trillian?
Chair, I would love to give you a laser sharp answer onto this question. I'm afraid I cannot. I can just tell you what I experienced back in that time. Back in that time, it was very opaque. It was planned that regiments, management consulting talent would go from regiments to Trillian. We also saw the list of people that went over, because we also supported them later on with training and hiring of people. I received during this time period, until we terminated the conversation between regiments and Trillian, multiple emails, at times from regiments' email addresses, at times from Trillian email addresses, and who was what and where was almost impossible to determine at that time.
Dr. Weiss, can you then talk about the process that led to McKinsey terminating its relationship with Trillian?
I can very well do that. And it may be that I'm coming across as a little bit naive here, but I'm a German national that, did fly in and fly out to South Africa, during that time. And I'm, in that capacity, I hear things and I understand things, and also kind of what is going on in South Africa. Yet my focus for signing our contract with both Eskom and the SD&L partner was to make sure that the Black Economic Empowerment Partner is really Black owned. For that, and I'm a German, for that I need a piece of paper where there's written, this is the owner of the entity, so that I can prove, yes, this majority Black ownership, and I need a BEE certificate. And for being a German, I asked for this in a very painful, highly frequent way. So this started at the very beginning because, we intended to have them as our supplier development partner. In order to get to this partnership, I needed a BEE certificate and I needed the sheet of ownership to make sure that I understand that they are really majority Black owned, because that was the whole idea of supplier development. So I asked this question. I first asked this orally over the course of October, November, December, and we had the subcontracting agreement already worked out and negotiated. Yeah. I didn't sign the subcontracting agreement because I did not have any evidence about their ownership and their BEE status. Now time comes and we're having, we're starting to work based on the letter of acceptance that we discussed before. And then, in normal life, you first start just, in an oral conversation to ask, and then I started to interrogate that matter in writing. Yeah, first emails, That is also in the evidence. And then later on, then letters where we really kind of, in a very precise way, asked for the ownership information. That information was not forthcoming. In parallel, as Dr. Fine yesterday talked about, they were also looking into regiments. Then there were news coming up about potential improper activity of a regiment's employee. A risk assessment was done. We also did a risk assessment, on Trillian. We had several service providers trying to find out who are the owners of this entity. And then in this telephone conference with the Ethics and Risk Committee at 14th of March, 2016, it was an evening call. We from the CST as well, as well as the committee members, we were all aligned that we cannot go on because our potential partner is not forthcoming with this situation. This then led to a series of letters where we wanted to be crystal clear that this can't be our partner. Although, indeed, we had worked alongside with them in the anticipation that they are just in this process and may work out something. So we first, with the letter of 15th of March, forwarded this termination information to Trillian. And then with the letter of 30th of March, 2016, sent a letter that, kind of a representative's termination, citing exactly that reason to Eskom. And I know that because I co-signed that letter. And this is where it ended.
Dr. Weiss, you focused on the BEE issue in relation to the termination. I accept it was a very important issue along with the opaqueness relating to ownership. But it seems to me that there were other issues as well. And can I take you to a series of letters that were written by McKinsey and in some cases you?
Yes. Yes.
Starting with AW11 at 927, because I'd like you to explain to the chair what those other issues were, because they seem to me to be quite important. 927.
Yep, I'm going there. Yeah, this is the Duva boiler issue. And this was something, again, super unacceptable to us. While running the boiler workstream chair, there was in procurement. So there was a boiler workstream. We prepared the negotiation on large-scale contracts in order to achieve procurement savings. And we found out, or at least we got an indication, that Trillian is both involved in a supplier development partner for the supplier in question, or for one potential supplier in question for the Duva boiler, as well as serving the procurement work stream. In our standards, that is not
sorry,
acceptable.
Dr. Weiss, if I can just come in to clarify what you're saying. So they are assisting you, or they were planning to assist you to oversee that procurement in the interests of Eskom, at the same time as they were in a relationship with the supplier development partner of one of the bidders in that relationship. Is that a fair assessment of what you're describing?
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. I'm not saying that they intended to negotiate that, but they were close enough, because remember, Trillian worked with us at the procurement work stream. And so at least my ethics do not allow, to be on both sides of a negotiation. I decide to be either on the one side or I'm going to be on the other side of a negotiation. And hence, we raised that instance with Eskom and with Trillian.
And can I identify this subcontractor that was the potentially problematic subcontractor in relation to the procurement? Was that E-Gateway Global Consultants FZC or FZE? E-Gateway.
Yeah, E-Gateway was subcontracted by Trillian, as I understand it, for supporting on the procurement work stream, and they performed work, whether, on the procurement work stream, right? Whether they then also were involved in that specific negotiation, to me, doesn't matter. Alone the fact that I'm supporting a procurement work stream while I'm at the same time supporting a supplier, that doesn't help too much from my perspective. And that's, at least it goes against our ethics, and hence we reported it immediately.
And did you ever establish who E-Gateway were, or who the controlling party, or who held the controlling interest in E-Gateway?
I do not have this knowledge.
Well, we'll deal with that separately in the commission then. Can I ask you also then to go to 932 and AW14?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm there.
Is this the letter that you were referring to, where you placed on record your concerns about this conflict with Eskom?
That's exactly the letter with which we explained our concerns with Eskom. And again, we don't know whether there was any improper dealings, right? Perhaps both of these teams had an agreement on a Chinese wall and, 2 separate servers, and may as well be. But the fact that they didn't talk to us about it, that raised our concerns. And so we felt it is our obligation to raise the issue for it then to be clarified.
And they never came back to you with any clarification in this regard?
In this regard, I don't recall clarification.
And do you know if Hubei, who were the primary contractor involved in that Duva procurement issue, if they did work for Eskom, continue to do work with E-Gateway for Eskom?
I have no information around this. I'm afraid, their Eskom needs to be asked who then in the end was selected for the Duva boiler replacement.
Then you talk. Well, let me take you to a statement of Mr. Sneeder, who was at the time, I think, the CEO of McKinsey, or held the most senior position of McKinsey. It's at page 40 of this bundle. It's an annexure to Mr. Misala's statement. Do you have a complete file, number 7?
I have.
That's bundle 8, huh? Mr. Chaskalson?
Bundle 8. Bundle 7. Bundle 7.
Oh, bundle 7. Oh. And what's the page?
40. 40.
40.
Flow of funds. 40?
Yes. Well, 41. 41, in fact, is the passage that I'm interested in. No,
unfortunately, I have. Sorry, no, I have. I'm not so sure whether I have that bundle. Let me go into the other one that I have. 40.
It's not.
No, that's an.
Dr. Weiss, it's not necessary. It's literally a sentence that I want to refer you to, and I can read it out to you.
Okay.
So it's from the speech that Mr. Sneeder made at the Gordon Institute of Business Science. I think it was in 2018, and he's talking about mistakes that McKinsey has acknowledged, and he says in that regard, as we wound down, and Chair, I'm reading the second paragraph on page 41.
Yes.
As we wound down at Eskom in mid-2016, our client team continued to interact with Trillian at Eskom even after they had failed our due diligence, and no contract existed between McKinsey and Trillian. They should not have. So what I want to ask you is, why did McKinsey continue to interact with Trillian after Trillian had failed its due diligence? And after Trillian had sent that March letter?
No, we had sent this March letter. Chair, I'm absolutely happy to speak to this. So first of all, it's a very fair question. That I think in hindsight I'm asking me as well, and what does cooperation mean, right? And let's go work package per work package, right? eGateway and the procurement consultants of Trillian had a very separate work package. They worked on data cleanup. We worked on category work. Yeah. To continue working on category work as we did after this letter didn't require any interaction with the Trillian folks on the ground. In the event of the Majuba power station, and they had several engineers, we indeed continued our work, also the McKinsey work, even though the contract was cancelled until August 2016, and they were there and then over time disappeared. Yeah, we didn't actively really engage them into teamwork there, but looking with the benefit of hindsight, I agree, Chair, that was a mistake.
Was there any discussion about this at the time after the due diligence had failed and after the letter had been sent terminating the relationship? Was there a discussion of how you were to proceed at Eskom?
Yeah, and also we were forced by the steering committee to have the discussion. Remember, there was, we sent this letter to both parties, meaning Trillian, on the 15th of March 2016, and Eskom on the 30th of March 2016. So it was super clear, these are not going to be our supplier development partners. We had the next steering committee, and the steering committee the members were asking us that, it's all minuted, so it's all on record. We're asking in terms of, okay, how do you now fulfill your supplier development part, obligation, and are you continuing to work with Trillian? On that steering committee, I made the presentation. I said, no, Chair, we cannot continue. We are going for an alternative, SDL concept that then I also presented. And while I said, no, we are not going to work with Trillian going forward, they can't be our supplier development partner, and I have a completely different concept that does not include Trillian for SDL. Trillian representatives were in the room. So Eskom was clear, Trillian was clear, we were clear and have declared this. After this, Eskom decided, obviously, that they still wanted to have Trillian around and continue to work with them. because it's not so easy to get into a power station site. Yeah, there are access cards that you need in order to get in, and so on and so on. Right. So this was not revoked. They worked further there, and we meanwhile then were busy on trying to fill our new SD&L concept with life.
Can I take you to two documents in relation to that new SD&L concept that you prepared? And these are in file 8. In fact, Chair, it's file 8B. The first one is at 1185. 1185.
Okay, bundle 8B. The page is 185.
1185, Chair.
1185. We are at 11:15, Mr. Chaskelson. One thing, we could take a tea break now, but if you're close to finishing, we could take the break after you are done.
Chair, I'm close to finishing. I know also that Mr. Van Zyl has a commitment that he needs to get to at 12. So
Yes.
I don't propose to be much longer. Would it be possible for us to simply
Okay,
to
let's
proceed?
continue. Okay.
So I'm afraid I can't find the document that you are referring to in any of my files here. So my file goes to one.
If I may come in here to assist my client,
Yes.
it's in the McKinsey reference bundle. It's VV9.
Okay. VV9, I have that.
1185 in that. On the left top of the page is the numbering.
1125.
1185. Huh?
Appendix to negotiation of key financial parameters, is it that? No.
It's a
1125.
1185.
Appendix SD&L proposal. Yeah. 1185.
Yes.
Okay.
Top left corner.
Yeah. 11.
Well, it's written
64.
FOF.
Sorry, I'm scrolling.
1185, but we just say 1185. We don't call FOF 08.
Yep. Okay. I have that. Yeah.
Okay.
And do you
Yeah,
recognize?
I have that. It's an SD&L. It's an email, right?
Yes, that's correct. And it's an email you addressed to Prish Govender at Eskom on 4 May 2016.
Yeah.
Do you recall?
Exactly.
I mean, if you read that email, do you remember sending it to Prish Govender?
I remember, but I don't know the, the day, but it seems to be correct that I sent that to Mr. Prish Govender, yes.
And as I understand it, this was your attempt to, I mean, at this stage, there were two separate processes going on. The one is that you wanted to give expression to this new SDL idea that you had come up with to be incorporated in the contract.
Correct, Chair.
And the other, of course, was that the contract,
Correct,
the contract hadn't yet been signed, and until you could reach agreement on this new SDL annexure, it wouldn't be possible to sign the contract because this was a necessary part of the contract. Is that correct too?
Correct, Chair.
Can I take you to, and this is a draft you're presenting to Eskom as a proposal for inclusion as Appendix 4 of the contract?
Correct, sir.
Can you go down to 1189? And there you set out context for the need for a new model. And you write BBBE Partnership Model and Implementation Plan. McKinsey executed it on its BBBE obligation from the start of work in January 2016. during the first quarter, a number of particularities occurred that caused both Eskom and McKinsey, unfortunately mine is overwritten there, but to do something in relation to implementation of the BBBE partnership model. Let me read from a hard copy. Eskom raised questions with respect to the partner, and it had said allocated to, and now you've changed that to identified for the program as per written communication of February 19th, 2016. McKinsey was able to reply to Eskom's requests as per written communication of February 24th, 2016. McKinsey was not able to receive from the identified partner information about its ownership structure, its shareholding, nor the composition of its leadership team. Consequently, McKinsey was not able to prove to Eskom the validity of the BBBE partner, and thus informed Eskom as per written communication on March 30th, 2016, that its risk committee didn't allow McKinsey to cooperate with this partner in the context of the above-cited BBBE partnership. And then you go on to the new model. After consultation between Eskom and McKinsey, both parties agreed to maintain the envisaged BBBE partnership aspiration, but apply a somewhat modified implementation strategy. Both parties have aligned on the following implementation strategy, and then you set it out. And if I understand it correctly, it's that McKinsey is not going to have its own formal supplier development partner, but it is going to allocate a fixed portion of its fees to a fund which Eskom will then disburse to a range of different BE companies who will be engaged on the project. Is that a fair summary of what the model was?
Chair, that is a fair summary of what that document says.
So in this draft, you set out the context, which, to put it crudely, is that Trillian failed your due diligence. You've come up with a new model, which is your fund supplier development, and Eskom will disperse from that fund to a range of BE companies who will be brought in to work alongside McKinsey. Can I take you then to page 1192, which is another email you sent to Prish Govender, but this time it's just over 10 days later. It's 12 days later on the 16th of May. 1192.
Yeah.
Dear Prish, dear Edwin, it's also sent to Edwin Mabalani. Hope this email finds you well. As discussed last Friday, we've adapted both the SDNL memo and the related board submission document. So you've now revised them again. And can I take you to the material revision, which is at 1196?
Yeah.
And there you say, McKinsey executed on its BBBE model from the start of work in January 2016. During the first months of the execution phase, practical insights were gathered and discussed with Eskom's management team. Upon these insights and discussions, a range of modification to the execution of the BBBE partnership are suggested. While these changes will fully maintain the aspirations of the BBBE partnership model SDL contribution, they'll ease the practical implementation and leave Eskom with significant higher flexibility to achieve its own SDNL targets. The following modifications are suggested, and then you broadly repeat what followed the original draft. That's to be read also with your memorandum to the board at page 1200, or your draft memorandum to be submitted to the board, which essentially repeats the extract that I've just read. If you go to 1200 and 3.1.4, you say, McKinsey intends to select small black-owned consultancies wherever possible for the subcontracting. The BBBE credentials of the subcontractors will...
That's 1200?
1,200, Chair.
Only 1,200.
1,200.
And 3 point?
Well, 3.1.5 is where it's repeated. McKinsey executed on its BBBE obligation from the start of work in January 2016. Early in the execution phase, practical insights were gathered and discussed with Eskom's management team. For instance, the ramp-up of the envisaged BBBE partners were much longer than anticipated. The key insight was that a multi-partner approach may potentially better fit the complex requirements of the program. These insights and discussions led to the suggestion of a range of modifications with regard to the execution of the BBBE partnership model. These changes will fully maintain aspirations to the original BBBE partnership model SDL contribution while significantly easing the practical implementation. Critically, these modifications will enable Eskom to have far greater flexibility to achieve its own SDL targets. When I read these documents, what I see is that in your first draft, you say fairly frankly, Trillian failed our due diligence. You don't mention them by name. So we need to come up with a different model. Here's our model. But in the second and third, the second draft, together with the board memo that goes with it, you back off from that, don't mention it at all, and instead talk about practical insights and a multi-partner approach and problems with ramping up. Why?
Let me first of all say, Chair, we have not been able to be more brutal and crisp in saying we are not working with Trillian as a supplier development partner. And we didn't do that in 2017 or 2018. We did that in March 2016. And we didn't do it in, just like a side conversation or something like that. We did it in writing to every party. Eskom was clear. Eskom knew why we have terminated any talks with Trillian. Trillian knew why, we have terminated any talks about them being a potential supplier development partner. Why the facts that we had in the beginning didn't trickle down to what then eventually was presented to the board, I can't tell you. And by the way, I'm also not sure whether these documents are the final version where we gave input to, or whether the input later on was kind of modified. I think yes, it lacks a level of detail. I'm completely clear with what you are saying, or I hear what we are saying, yet the decision hasn't been softened or anything. None of that happened.
I do accept that, Dr. Weiss, but we can give you the original files. What you'll see on the original files is that these sections that I'm reading to you, these which are track change sections, were inserted by you yourself. They have a Weiss or AW, I forget which, they're identifiable as having been inserted by you. And what concerns me, or what I want to understand, is what was going on at Eskom, what was going on at McKinsey that would have persuaded you to produce a first draft that says, frankly, Trillian failed our due diligence, so we need a new model. And then a second draft that, in my respectful view, fudges that issue. So, are you able to answer that?
But it says it comes to the same result. It comes to the same And sorry, this indeed some years ago. So I'm surprised that I was that active there. But it says exactly the same thing, and it didn't change anything in our behavior. And for sure, people, were wondering, what is going on there. Yeah, this was, I don't know. I know I'm now in front of the commission, but this was also for us a pretty kind of material step to take, to go there and say, this is not our supplier development partner. because we can't contract with him for this material reasons. And if I look at this, it says nothing different. It doesn't say that all of a sudden we have now decided to lift all our reservations and go ahead as planned. No, it doesn't say that. It doesn't say exactly what was there. It says it with different words. That's correct. I can't give you the reasons for that because I don't recall them right now. But it gives exactly the same position that I'm also standing with today.
Yeah, I fully accept that there was no prospect of McKinsey taking Trillian on as a supplier development partner, whatever this draft memo said, or draft appendix said. But can I take you back to the covering email on the second draft? So that's 1192, the covering email on the May 16 draft. And the parties to whom you address it are Prish Govender, Edwin Mabalani, Vikas Sagar, and Agasan Rajagopal, and Claude Gell at McKinsey. And you say, hope this email, dear Prish, dear Edwin, hope this email finds you well. As discussed last Friday, so there was clearly a meeting between the first memo and the revised memo. We have adapted both the SDL memo and the related board submission document. So you refer to a meeting and then you say, we've now adapted the documents. Does that help you to remember what was going on at the time and why the more frank first draft was replaced with a less frank, well, a slightly toned down second draft?
I don't know, perhaps we decided that we didn't want to destroy the prospects of Trillian going forward. I don't know, quite honestly. And it would be speculation. I simply don't know. Obviously, we have discussed with them, as indicated also by the earlier email that I sent. But as a matter of fact, Chair, we did not deviate in any way from our decision. Neither in this letter or in the formulation there, nor in the actions that we took later.
Then if I can take you back, well, let me raise a slightly different issue before we go back to Mr. Sneeder's statement. You candidly indicate in your statement that the MSA contract that you ultimately signed with the date of 11 January 2016 was in fact only signed in September or October. And you explain in your statement that...
That's correct, Chair.
You explained that Eskom had actually, that you understood that Eskom's preference was that the SLA be signed as of the effective date, not of the actual date on which it was being signed. And it was for that reason that you dated your signature January 11, when in fact it was appended to the document sometime in September and October. Can I just clarify? As of September and October, as of January, of course, there was still not agreement on some material terms to that contract, including, for instance, the supply development annexure that you were exchanging drafts on in May.
Chair, what January do you mean? January 2016?
2016, yes. So let's just get...
Chair, you are correct. In January 2016, we didn't have a supplier development partner confirmed As you know, there was a draft supplier subcontract for a potential supplier development partner negotiated, yet not signed, because we are lacking ownership and BE information.
And on the main contract, after after Trillian failed your due diligence, you at that point materially changed what was the then draft of the supplier development annexure on the main contract. Those are the documents we've been looking at a few minutes ago from May 2016.
That was the only modification that was done later on. You are perfectly correct, Mr. Chair.
My concern with your signing with a date of 11 January when the actual date was...
Mr. Chaskowson, I know you may be left with a few questions, but there is a reason for us to adjourn a bit, for a short time, only 10 minutes. Let's adjourn for 10 minutes and then we'll come back and try and finish.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. We adjourn.
And then I signed on 17th of December 2015, the letter of acceptance. This letter of acceptance is giving effect to the contract because it directly refers to what has been negotiated there, the results of our negotiation. In Germany, indeed, I wouldn't even need a signature under this, but indeed it will be binding. So I found myself bound to this contract. Then thereafter, and I think that is minuted several times, I'm basically on a weekly occasion asked to get a signed contract from Eskom. And let me add to this. This is not the first time that I get a task order or anything that is then formal, way beyond the start of work. Yeah, unfortunately, that's the truth, that we don't, the task orders are not issued on time. So I keep on asking. We eventually then, on 6th of June 2016, or I don't know, let me say beginning of June 2016, are informed by Eskom that our contract gets terminated. Then at around August 2016, we settle on an amount to be paid. We wrote an invoice only for the McKinsey chair, not for the SD&L chair, and got paid. And only thereafter, in September 2016, I received a printed version of a copy that is signed 7th of January. So what I intended there, what I understood there was that, since the contract wasn't there anymore, it was already cancelled and paid and so on, that, I was, required to sign the contract on that date when it actually started. My very first day in South Africa in the year 2016 was the 11th of January. Hence, I put the 11th of January on that contract because I was anyhow bound by the 17th December 2015 letter of acceptance. And I really apologize also here in front of the Commission if that has confused anybody in here. But to come back to your question that originally was, would that be sufficient in Germany? Yes, it would be sufficient in Germany.
Can I come back to something else that Mr. Sneeder said on page 41? Again, you may not have the document, but it's literally only one paragraph, short paragraph. He said on page 41, finally, our client team relied too much on their relationships at Eskom. They took Eskom's board approval, Eskom's appointment letter, and Eskom's management word at face value. They should not have done so. I presume you accept that comment from Mr. Sneeder as a fair comment?
Yes.
Can you say why you did? What was it about the situation that made you put the sort of reliance on Eskom's representations at a higher level than you would ordinarily do or would ordinarily be appropriate?
I don't know where this question is heading, but I'm, indeed quite a lot of these colleagues at Eskom that I worked for a long time ago, and perhaps that led me to that behavior.
Can I tell you where it's heading? I mean, if I look back at those 6 months, McKinsey had devoted very substantial resources to Eskom, had done so without a written contract and certainly without payment? And was there not a real concern that was driving McKinsey at that stage that you needed to do what had to be done to get paid for this work?
But I had already been paid for this work, Chair. I don't understand the reasoning that you are putting here.
That's in, sorry, that's obviously by the time you had, I'm not talking backdating now, I'm talking other issues like the supply development annexure, like continuing to work alongside Trillian and so on.
But Chair, with all due respect, we started this process. We actually did the due diligence. I think what is fair to say is that, we shouldn't have worked or started work before this due diligence was closed. There we were too slow, most likely, yeah. And, as also Mr. Misala and Mr. Fine referred to yesterday, this is a process that we have changed. But we came to the conclusion that it is not appropriate to work with Trillian as a supplier development partner. And despite that, causing a risk for us, not getting paid or not ever work at Eskom again, we were vocal, not only saying, but wrote on paper that this couldn't be our supplier development partner. So I understand your frustration that we could have done this earlier, and I agree to you. This is a mistake that we have done, but without external pressure, we ourselves did that, and were crystal clear in the way how we have communicated it.
Thank you, Dr. Weiss. I don't have any further questions from my side.
Thank you very much, Dr. Weiss. Let me ask whether Mr. Van Zyl intends to re-examine on anything.
Thank you, Chair. We don't have any questions for Dr. Weiss either.
Okay, all right. No, thank you very, very much. Then it remains for me to thank Dr. Weiss for availing himself and thank everybody. I will now excuse him, and I will excuse you, Mr. Van Zyl, as well. Yeah, yes, Dr. Weiss?
Chair, is there still a minute to say some final words for me?
Yes, yes, yes.
Because I first of all, and it was a hard conversation. I first of all would like to thank for the opportunity that you have given me and also my colleagues to present ourselves and the facts as we see them, and also to answer your question in front of the Commission. This is really helpful to also get kind of these perspectives out. And then, what I also would say, we really intended to help the people of South Africa, and especially considering in what dire situation Eskom was at this time, it was a heartfelt, need for us to engage, and also to engage together with developing black talent in this country. What I think we discussed about it, we did real work on this, and it was not always easy because it was 100% at-risk contract. Yeah. We achieved impact, all of that is great. What I learned through this process is that our support to Eskom may have laid ground for corruption. And, I think, therefore, it's really important, the work that you are doing at the Commission, that you're also asking the question that you're asking, that are sometimes, feel uncomfortable. I think you're doing the right thing, and thanks again for actually giving me the opportunity to speak in front of this Commission here.
Thank you very much, Dr. Weiss. You are now excused. Thank you. Mr. Chairperson, That's the only witness you had for today.
That's correct, Chair.
Yes. We are going to adjourn for now, just for the benefit of the public. I will return at 2 o'clock to listen to the evidence of Mr. Musebenzi Zwane at 2 o'clock, who did not finish his evidence previously, and he will come back to finish it. And then later in the afternoon or early evening, I will listen to the evidence of Mr. Koko from Eskom, who did not finish his evidence. At least we will deal with the evidence relating to the suspensions. We might not get beyond that, and he might have to come back some other time. So we will resume at 2 o'clock. We adjourn.